Hello and welcome to the Creaky Coolers. Today we are in Age Mythology Retold and we're doing another guide video. This one is for the Greeks. Now today's video is going to be all about Poseidon and everything that makes him good and golden. And don't forget guys, if you enjoy this type of video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. But anyway, let's get stuck into this video and talk about exactly what you need to know if you want to play as Poseidon. Now, Poseidon focuses on cavalry and economy. Now, you would think he'd be having mad buffs when it comes to water. Unfortunately, that's just not the case, which is a little bit odd. Anyway, militia spawn when your buildings are destroyed. That in itself is so powerful. It's hard to demonstrate, but basically, if you get an early rush, your houses get destroyed. You get 2 militia for every single building that's destroyed, meaning the beginning game, the early game, you're quite actually hard to rush as Poseidon, which is pretty cool. Also, your cavalry units and your myth units are faster on that battlefield. Also, your stables and your markets are also cheaper to build as well. And you get an improved exchange rate at that market, which can be really awesome. You also get a free water scout, which can be pretty cool. It is an instant respawn. If it gets killed, you get it as soon as you put down a docks as well. I quite like it. Any kind of scout I'm all up for. Now, our first passive at age 1 that we get is Lure. Now, this will automatically summon chickens. It will also gather animals as time goes on. It's not instant. It doesn't seem to gather like animals that are around it, but if you go back to it every now and again, you will notice more animals there, and you get more chickens the further up you go in ages as well. So keep that in mind. As you can see, this is the free water scout that you get. Now, it doesn't have any kind of attack whatsoever, and he has very, very minimal health too, but he will scout those oceans for you. Just set him on scout and leave him to wander. Now, these militia, I love this idea, I really do, especially with the houses. Don't forget you can put down 16 houses. So if they do get destroyed right at the beginning, you do get 2 militia for every single building destroyed. In my opinion, it can be really, really worthwhile. It makes Poseidon quite a difficult rush because he does have an army right there at his doorstep if the enemy comes to attack you. Now, the final thing to talk about is Lord of the Horses. Now, Poseidon is very good with his cavalry. He has a few different cavalry buffs, so keep that in mind as you play through. Now, at age 2, the first one that you have to choose is Ares. Ares has the ability to essentially stop turret towers and fortified locations actually firing at you. So it's really good if you're going to go attack a city. And it just means your troops won't be killed by those. You also have Cyclops, which is a myth unit, which is a pretty decent myth unit as well. And the rest of them are buffs to our myth unit, the Cyclops, and also our infantry units too. Alternatively, you can pick Hermes, who I think is the preferred choice here personally. Ceasefire can be used really well. I think, again, you can use it to kind of get into the center of their town, or of course you can use it to bide some time if the enemy are attacking you. Ceasefire essentially means that nobody is doing anything on that map. No one is attacking anyone or using any kind of damage to happen. So it's really, really useful is Ceasefire. You also get access to the Centaur, which is a fabulous myth unit. Unlike with Zeus, it does cost a little bit more population. However, it's a ranged myth unit. You can buff it up, and I believe there are certain buffs there that help for the centaurs in the late game as well. We also get a chance to buff them up, make them even stronger. The centaurs are seriously a very good myth unit. They have a special ability called Volley, which is particularly good as well. In age 3, we get Aphrodite. She has access to Curse, which is an area of effect. You get a big circle, and any kind of troops that were within that circle get turned into pigs. Rather useful. You also get Lion, which is a myth unit. I'm not a huge fan of this myth unit, however. You also get the ability of Golden Apples, which will buff up your villagers. On top of that, you get Divine Blood, another huge buff for villagers as well. So really helping that economy grow with buffing up those. You can also buff up that lion too, and you get access to a hero water unit, which is pretty decent actually. I think it's quite a unique ability to have a water hero unit as well, which means any kind of myth units in that water, you're going to be able to counter with this ship. Now, alternatively, you might want access to bronze. Bronze will essentially up the defense of your units. Now, it does only last for a short period of time. I think that's the most important thing there. We also get access to the Hydra, which is a very strong myth unit. If they do damage, they get an extra head, up to 5 heads, and the more heads they get, the more attack they have too. Let's get a serious buff to cavalry units here too. I think with Poseidon going down the cavalry route is a very good idea. But really what it's all about is this myth unit, the Hydra. Very powerful, has recently got nerfed slightly, but it is a very, very strong unit if you can actually get it to its end state at stage 5. Now, on age 4, we do get access to Plenty, or the Vault of Plenty, which will trickle in 15 food, 15 wood, and 15 gold every 5 seconds. We also get the Colossus, which is an extremely powerful myth unit when it comes to the Greeks. You can also buff him up twice as well. Unfortunately, the Colossus isn't as good as Poseidon as it is with Hades and as Zeus, but it's still very worth getting. The Colossus has to be one of the coolest looking units in the entire game, and you can get him to eat trees to replenish his health as well. I think the whole imagery there looks pretty awesome, and the Colossus is definitely a fun playthrough to go with. However, Artemis is probably the way you're going to go, and the reason that is Earthquake. It is quite possibly the most powerful spell in the game. It can absolutely level cities. You also get access to a myth unit. It's a melee myth unit. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but hey, any more troops is extra troops. But what you're really going for is that Earthquake. Earthquake is just so powerful. Yes, we have buffs to a few different other things, but Earthquake, if you manage to get access to it, is just a game changer. Now, if you want to last long enough in your game in order to use Earthquake, you're going to need to know how to play as the Greeks. Now, the Greeks use villagers. They cost 50 food each, and of course, you're going to have up to 100 of the villagers in your game. I would recommend doing so as well as soon as possible. Making sure all your town centers are always pumping out more villagers is a really good idea. Now, the villagers are what's going to be building all of your buildings. Going to be building your resource buildings as well as your military buildings. They do need drop-off points though, so that's really important to remember. You're going to be needing to build a granary. You're going to be needing to build a mine, just to make sure they have somewhere to drop off resources. Don't make them go back to the town center. It's going to be slowing you down far too much. Now, another important question is favor. How do you generate favor? Well, as soon as you build a temple, the villager that built it will straight away start worshipping there, and that will earn you favor. The more villagers you have worshipping, the more favor, the quicker you will get it. It is a bit of a downside, however, because of course, if the villagers are worshipping, it means they're not gathering resources, which is a little bit annoying to me. Something really interesting about the Greeks is that they have unique heroes. Now, you only ever have 4 heroes, unless, of course, you have the ship counting as a 5th hero. However, every Greek god has their own unique heroes. I personally think this is pretty awesome. Poseidon, however, has a very unique Greek hero. This guy. I personally love this Cyclops. I think it's pretty awesome. Has over 1,000 health, has a decent amount of damage as well, and that's before your wonder's been put up. I think he's the best, to be fair. Now, if you're playing as the Greeks, you also get access to a Pegasus. Now, a Pegasus is a scout unit. You can, if he does die on his scouting, he will respawn, in which case you can get him to keep scouting. I think he's really useful, a really useful unit. If not just to clear the fog of war, allowing you then to use a god power on your enemy. I think that anyone that has access to a flying unit has an advantage if you use it correctly. Now, the lure perhaps isn't the most powerful god power you can have. After all, you could also go down the farm route and just have farms from the get-go. However, lure is quite interesting in the sense that it will summon animals right there to that lure for you to hunt, for you to then harvest as food. And the further you go in the game, in other words, the higher your age, the more chickens it will naturally spawn too. I quite like this. I quite like having unlimited chickens, unlimited meat, because gathering resources from animals is quicker than farms, at least at the beginning. I wanted to point out these water tames real quick. They are a myth unit, and very much like the Hydra, the more damage that they do, the stronger they get. In my opinion, they are the strongest water unit you can actually get in the game. So strong in attack and health, especially once that wonder's up and running. Now, I know we mentioned about the militia earlier in the game. When a building of yours is destroyed by the enemy, it spawns to militia. I just wanted to show you on screen exactly how that happens. I think it's quite interesting because it does mean that the early rush, when players will attack you early in the game and they destroy a few buildings, they can quickly become outnumbered. Now, one as my favorite units as the Greeks is the Centaurs. Now, if you play as Zeus, these only cost 2 population, which is just absolutely phenomenal. However, as of course Poseidon, they do cost 3 population. They only cost wood, however, which I think is a nice cheap resource, especially late in the game, meaning you're able to spam these quite a lot. They are also a ranged unit which will protect you against flying units, which again I think is really helpful. You can also buff these up, and as you're playing as Poseidon, they get a little bit of a buff as well, where they're faster on that battlefield than most other units, which can be really handy. I think having speed, having the ability just to move across that battlefield quickly, it can't be overstated just how helpful that is. I also feel they have a pretty fast attack as well. They kind of pump out those arrows pretty quickly, pretty steadily. They're good against units, soldiers, but they're also pretty good against buildings. It doesn't say that they are, but in my opinion, they are. Now, as you can see, ceasefire works here very seamlessly. I introduced my my centaurs. We were in the middle of a battle. I activated ceasefire, and now nothing can hurt me, meaning I can move my troops in the middle of this city, and there's nothing they can do about it until that time is up. As you can see, I'm using that very attackingly in this case, but I do think you can use it very well in defensiveness as well. If an army is attacking you, you can use it just to buy yourself a little bit of time. Now, Curse is a ranged, like an area of effect. When you activate, you see there's a huge circle, and any number of enemy troops within that circle can be turned into pigs, essentially removing them from the enemy's army. Now, we've mentioned about Earthquake. I've said it in every single Greek video. Earthquake is so strong. It really is the most powerful spell, the most powerful power that you have in this game. As you can see, we've used it one time, and it's absolutely decimated this city. But there we have it, guys. That is everything that I have for you about Poseidon and the Greeks. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If I missed out anything, comment it down below. We also have an active and growing Discord. You can find the link for that down in the description of the video. It'd be great to have more of the community inside the Discord. I want to try and do some multiplayer matches in the future. Maybe set up some tournaments if possible. But until next time, I've been a monk who's been incredibly curious, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.